Hey there, if you follow us on our YouTube channel or our website, or just follow us in general, you know my name is Scott Talley. I'm the owner of broker here at 5Market Realty in Athens, Georgia, where we'd like to do monthly market updates on what's happening in the real estate market to help people that are in the market stay informed, people that just own property and want to follow it, and of course, any past clients. If anything about Athens area real estate interests you, be sure to click subscribe. You'll be updated when we have a new video of a market update or possibly a new listing. But today we're going to focus on the first really 10 months of the year. And we're going to take a look at Athens area, Oconee County, and then we're going to look at some national market information from Keeping Current Matters. I've got about 18 slides today, so I'm going to try to go pretty quickly in the front end because what I want to get to is something we're seeing a shift in the market. We believe that we may be seeing a light at the end of the tunnel for what's been happening in real estate. And of course, we're going to look at that too with that national information from Keeping Current Matters. So let's go ahead and get started. As you know, if you follow us, we like to follow four main things in Clark and Oconee County. We started doing this back in 2020, and we just kept doing it as kind of as part of our routine to stay on top of what's happening in the market and to keep our clients and anybody that follows us informed. We look at new listings, the days on market, the average sold price, and of course, the total amount of sales, tracking back 3 years. We're going to look here, and the trend remains pretty much the same that we've been seeing all year. The new listings are on par right here, just below 1,900 with last year, just down 2.3%. But the big story here is where that red arrow is the days on market is up significantly, 21% from 44 days to 56 days. And that is significant, but it's returned to historic norms. When we had these low days on market before, it was not normal behavior for a real estate market. Average sold price, this is another good thing to look at here, is only up 2.5%. If you remember last month's market update, I showed you the annual appreciation rate year over year and how we finally went to a more historic norm. We had seen large gains, and then finally, year to date, we're only tracking about 2.5% over 2024, which is good news for buyers. And as far as total sales, look at that. We're right on par, 1,279 with 2023 and 2025 are behaving exactly the same, but we're about 8% down from last year. Month of October, trends are the same. We're down a little bit on total new listings at almost 13%. Days on market is up 16 at 62 days. Keep in mind, we're just tracking the month of October compared to the last 2 years. And we had some large sales and only 95 sales in the month of October. So this number right here at 15.4%, kind of believe it's a little bit of an outlier. The last one I showed you that's for the whole year, 2.5, is going to be much better. And then as you can see, we only had 95 sales. And again, this was as of November 4th or 5th, and that's for Clark and Oconee County, but it's the exact same number as 2023. If you remember in past updates, I told you that 2023 was our lowest transaction year in a long time. We did better in Athens area in 2024 than the rest of the country. But this year we have tracked on total transactions much similar to 2023. And there's a little part at the end I want to explain to you how our company got about 15% of those transactions, but it was down about 6% since last year. Again, looking at the days on market increase, those are the significant things to note here, that and the lack of transactions. But the good news is we do have some good news. We're going to get that in a minute. The good news out there is really for buyers. And what we're looking at here is the homes on the market. Again, this was about November 5th or 6th. 410 homes on the market, which is down from earlier in the year. But if you look under my head right here, November of last year, 414, we're right on par with that. And I think what you're going to see is you notice below my head, the numbers fall off going into January, and then we're going to track back up. And then where do we get here? Do we get over 500 next year? I think 2026 could look a lot more normal based on past patterns. So this is something new I did. I actually want to note that I had to use ChatGPT to do this. I don't have it noted as a source, but that's true. I did use ChatGPT. This is the average annual yearly mortgage rate from 2000 to today. And below my head is like 2000, 2001. And then right here where my head is, you can see in this little black line where I've had the dots, this is going to be 03, 04, 05, '06. And that was basically a pretty healthy market. Granted, the prices were lower, but the interest rates were right there. And then, as you can see here, we go below this dotted line going back in '08. Now, we all know what happened in '08, where I just put this red dot. Mortgage crisis. The economy's bad. They dropped the interest rates really low. And then down here, what happened at this low point in 2021, that was COVID. So as you can see right here from this arrow and right here, the mortgage rates were historically low for too long. People became accustomed to something that wasn't actually historic norms. And if you look back over here, where I'm going to circle you on the far right here, that's where we just dipped back down into. So we actually just got back in line with what we saw before the mortgage crisis. That's a good indicator. Now, this is where we're going to get into some of the keeping current matters information. And the mortgage spread is at its lowest point in, golly, about, let's see, does it say here? Well, in about 2 or 3 years. And what that means is the spread between the 10-year treasury and the actual mortgage rate has now, at one point, it was almost at three, closing in on 3.5. And now we've gone back down to just over two. So then the difference between the 10-year treasury and the mortgage rate is now at a lowest point we've seen in a long time, which is a good indicator for mortgage rates. But what's been happening, and what I alluded to in our last update, if you work in real estate, if you're a closing attorney, if you're a realtor, if you're someone that makes their business on transactions, you know that we've been in a recession that really began in 2022 when the interest rates went up 1 whole point overnight, and then the transaction count started to go down. It's been painful for a lot of people, but it's been needed. And we're thinking we might start to come out of this a little bit because real estate's often the first in and the first out. Now, this is from Redfin. It says only 28 out of every 1,000 homes, 2.8%, have changed hands in 2025. This is the lowest count in 30 years. This means existing homes changing hands has hit its lowest count in the last 30 years, first 9 months of the year, 2025. Now, I'll get here. This is the home turnover at its lowest rate, but you can see below my head, that's representing what I just told you, was about 28%. We're right on par with those last 2 years. What did I allude to? Real estate's been in a recession for the transaction count. You can see that it was much higher, 37%, 40%, 42%, all of this years ago, dating back to 2012. So we haven't seen a lot of homes change over, but there's some other indicators that kind of point towards 2026 being a lot more normal based on what we're seeing. Homes are turning over at historically low rates because affordability challenges have kept many buyers on the sidelines. We don't have an interest rate problem. We have a price problem. Sellers are also unwilling to give up their low mortgage rates. We have so many people with rates below 5% or 4%, myself included. There's not a lot of people motivated to put a sign in the yard that had been keeping the listing count down. And there's been some economic uncertainty when you had a new president come in with some new policies. I think that caused a little bit of it earlier in the year, but we seem to be seeing some people kind of free up right now. The housing market is starting to move again, and we're going to explain why we think that is starting to happen. Number one, mortgage rates have been decreasing for most of the year and are lower than they have been in the last couple of years. We're going to show you that again on another slide. As the lock-in effect eases, more homeowners are selling and inventory levels are starting to go back to normal, higher, over 1,000 listings in our MLS total. Lower rates and more homes to choose from are leading more buyers into the market. I recently had a home buyer that spent 3 months, had several homes to look at, negotiated, and got a rate around 6%. It's not that bad out there, folks, if you need a home. Now, mortgage rates are trending down. That's another thing that we're starting to see, and kind of our market has showing signs of loosening up. You can see this is the beginning of the year, over 7%. That's January 16th. And the source here is Freddie Mac. And now below my head, all the way to the end of October, I'm doing this on November, I guess it's 11th. We are down right over 6%, just about 6.1. That's a whole point drop over that span of time. So when I showed you on an earlier slide, we are trending back into a more Goldilocks area of mortgage rates when we've been high above it and we're kind of trending back down into it. The share of mortgages with rates over 6% climbs to a 10-year high as Americans adapt to normal. Now, what that means is how many people have rates over 6% because it was really low. Look at below my head here, 2022, 7.3, 10% in 23, 8% in 2021. But look back here to 2013. We've had over 30% of people had a rate over 6%, and it stayed over 15% all the way until right here in 2018. But look here, we're now 19% of people have a rate over 6%. And while that may not be good for people that don't want to have a rate over 6%, it's showing that the market is starting to balance itself back out and people may be freeing up their ability to move and put a sign in the yard. Now, this is from the chief economist, Joel Kahn at MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association. He says purchase applications were down over the week, but they remained 20% higher than a year ago. And that's what we're seeing in our office too. I alluded in the last one, we saw a pickup in August, September, October that we traditionally don't see this time of year. At least we saw it in our office, maybe not MLS wide, but we did see it across our company in the last 3 months. This is another factor that's going to be helping buyers. Home price trends vary by the local market. So below my head are the markets where you're seeing prices go up. And over here, the red is where prices have actually gone down. You can see here's Cleveland, Ohio at just about 5%. That's the highest one. These are major markets, by the way, not just smaller ones like Athens. And then here you've got Columbus, Ohio, about 2%. Now look at some of the red numbers. One of the ones there, let's find it, Atlanta, Georgia, shows a home price reduction of about 3%. And if you notice, it's about half and half, depending on where you are in the local market. And this is what we've needed. When I said earlier that we don't have a rate problem, we have a price problem. The prices went up so fast that certain people cannot afford it. And to those that are in a different income bracket, they have felt unaffected. But we're starting to normalize this. If we can keep the prices from jumping up and we get into a more calm interest rate climate, we're going to see a normal transaction count return. These are actually the home price forecasts for a lot of these people: NAR, Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, Bank of America, Moody's, and of course, right here, the lowest one being the Mortgage Bankers Association. But overall, the average estimated home price forecast is 1.7%. As a home seller that bought this year, if you're trying to turn around in 12 months, maybe that's not good news. But if you're a buyer who is tired of watching these prices jump and jump out of your affordability range, this is the good news. And actually, this is what we need to happen with supply and demand. We need to slow down appreciation, still have some, but just not make it so outrageous at 15, 20, 25% like we saw in 21 and 22. Lastly, and thank you for sticking with me for 11 minutes to get to this part, because that was a lot of information. Hopefully I made it clear. But what we noticed in our company was we had about 15% involvement of the transactions. Now, granted, in the month of October, this is for Athens, Clark, and Oconee County, but our little company, which is a boutique firm, we're not large. We have about somewhere between 15 to 20 agents. That's our participation in the sales versus everybody else in the MLS. Every other office is the red, but our little company took up a big pie. And that's what I wanted to bring you to, is to introduce you to our team like I do at the end of every video. 5Market Realty, info at 5mrealty.com. Anyone in this video is equipped to help you. If you're thinking about doing something next year, now's a great time to reach out. You need to get a plan in place. If you're a seller and you're thinking you're going to put it on the market sometime soon, you often have to start thinking 60, 90 days out on when you're going to do that. So feel free to reach out to anybody here. Info at 5mrealty.com. It's almost 12 minutes, and well, I hope I was clear throughout the whole thing. Big weekend here in Athens, Texas is coming to town. Go Dogs, horns down, and be sure to click subscribe. Have a great one.